We welcome you to Waterloo, Wisconsin, about 40 minutes east of the state capital of Madison, where it's the second stop of the 2017-18 Telenet UCI Cyclocross World Cup. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Schlanger alongside the Tour de France veteran Jens Vogt. Here are the current standings in the Telenet UCI Cyclocross World Cup. Mathieu van der Poel of the Netherlands won the opener last week in Iowa City. As a result, he is the World Cup leader coming into this second race of the campaign. And it is a hot one. Temperature around 90 degrees Fahrenheit. There is a breeze blowing, but the heat will be the biggest story of the day. And here is the front row, some of the top riders in the sport. Lars van der Haar of the Netherlands, one of 4 Dutch riders in the field here today. Michael van Torenhout of the very robust Belgian squad, 19 Belgians, more than any other country represented in the 58 rider field here today. Mathieu van der Poel, top rider in the sport right now after his win in Iowa City a week ago today. Corne van Kessel of the Netherlands and the Telenet Fidea team, always a factor here in the World Cup. That's why he's on the front row. And on his right shoulder, that is Laurens Sweeck, who last week in Iowa City was second to Mathieu van der Poel before winning in Las Vegas on Wednesday night at Cross Vegas. There is the reigning world champion, Wout van Aert, who did not have a good opener in Iowa City last week, had mechanical issues, and was never a factor in the race. Kevin Pauwels of Belgium was just off the podium a week ago in Iowa City, finishing in 4th. And Tom Newson, one of the many strong Belgians in the group here today, one of the most consistent finishers on the World Cup, but he struggled in Iowa City with mechanicals and the heat last week as well. 58 riders all together, second race of the season, about to commence today in Wisconsin. Short opening straight by World Cup standards, uphill and then a right-hand turn coming very quickly. So the pole shot, which belongs to Mathieu van der Poel in the white, so critical, and already a crash. First turn, several riders hitting the deck. Everybody wanting to be near the front for that turn that, as I mentioned, comes up so quickly, so critical to be near the front. And now van der Poel already has a gap here in the opening lap. That is Michael Boros of the Czech Republic checking his bike after going down. Well, how's that for a fast start, Jens Vogt?
That was a fast start indeed, and you can see he's already having like 2 bike lengths of an advantage, so he must have just started like a rocket. Let's hope he doesn't pay the price later for it, because this is not a 5-minute race, it's a 60-minute race.
Let's take a look back at the crash at the first corner. Happened on the outside. It's kind of a ripple effect of
it looked like
guys.
He might have touched the wheel. I don't think he did slide out. I think he just touched somebody else's wheel.
This is the Trek flyover. Side of it painted like a barn, paying tribute to the state of Wisconsin and Trek's origins here as a company that began in the mid-70s. And just like last week in Iowa City, Mathieu van der Poel getting a healthy margin on the opening lap. This is exactly what he did last week at the Johnson County Fairgrounds in Iowa. It was the start of his wire-to-wire win, where his eventual winning margin was by almost a full minute. And here we are just on lap 1, and he's working his way towards a 10-second lead already.
He did exactly the same thing 2 days ago on this circuit on, well, let's call it the test race they had, and he was winning it in a really convincing style.
It was a race on Friday that was lower than a World Cup level competition, but still many of these same riders he's competing against today were in that race too, and he beat them all.
And he's playing it safe as far as descent. See, he got the leg out to gain more balance. He's not trusting the ground here at all.
The high line seems to be the better line through here. Riders taking various approaches, very tricky, treacherous, off-camber, high speed. And as we saw in the women's race, it was very slippery. A lot of women went out, some crashed into the barriers on that very descent. And now from the descent, immediately back uphill. And now this is the Segafredo run-up. And Vanderpool has to get off his bike and carry it up the hill, just too steep to ride.
And have a look at the gap he already put in. It looked like it's close to 10 seconds within the first lap. That is very impressive. Or it's suicide. Let's see how that turns out.
This climb, steep and dry, and maybe it's the dryness that's the bigger factor because it's getting silty, slippery, no grip for the riders, and that makes it very difficult to ride. And so as a result, we're seeing so many get off and carry.
On the plus side, talking about dry conditions, we haven't seen too many bike changes. So I believe the riders, if they don't have a mechanical issue, there's no reason to change the bike on a course like this because the bike just never gets dirty or muddy. So they're gonna play it safe and save the energy. You'll see now, some of them jump up here and some get off the bike. So it's a 50-50 here between the tactics they're gonna use.
That was Quentin Herman's number 7 there. Last week on the podium in Iowa City, finishing 3rd. Here's our leader, Mathieu van der Poel. And he was talking about that race on Friday that he won here and also the practice rides yesterday, about how slippery it was becoming, how difficult it was to control his bike on various sections. And he would have to be very mindful and conservative here today. But not a lot of conservative riding so far to open up this kind of a gap.
As you can see here, they don't even hesitate to get off the bike and run or jump. They just go, yeah, of course, I'm gonna stay on the bike and ride it. Pretty impressive skill, I must say. He's just killing it in a moment. I am impressed.
This is the battle for second place here, and look how big it is. I mean, we're talking 15 or more riders here, all grouped together. Second time passing the pit area. They're calling the lead 12 seconds on the GPS for Mathieu van der Poel here on this opening lap. After getting a hole shot, has not looked back. Here comes one rider changing bikes, and that is the world champion, Wout van Aert. Last week, had some mechanical problems in Iowa City, was never a factor in that race, was very discouraged. Hoped to turn the page for the race today in Waterloo, but he's already lost a lot of ground.
He did. And I can tell you from my experience from racing yesterday, the pit stop area, the surface, it's a lot rougher, it's a lot slower, so you lose more time going through the pit stop area.
How often were you saying shut up legs during your ride on this course yesterday?
Every single lap. But it was only 3 laps. My race was only 30 minutes.
Did they let you have a big breakaway like you were known for during your road career?
I had a terrible start, so it took me 1.5 laps to actually get to the first position.
Now this is a little shower area they have to cool off the riders. You will not see something like this in a typical World Cup cyclocross event, especially over in Europe where they many times race in freezing conditions, but it was a special provision put in because the temperature is just so hot here in Wisconsin today. Now this is Mathieu van der Poel coming into this area that is known as Trek Hill. In the women's race, some were sliding around, having to get off their bikes. It was deceptively tricky and slippery. These are all the riders battling for second on the screen, led by Quentin Hermans. Look at that gap to the man on the right-hand side of the screen, our leader, Mathieu van der Poel. 6.5 minutes in and already a sizable margin. Hermans again on the podium in 3rd last week in Iowa City behind van der Poel and Laurens Sweeck, who finished 2nd. And Hermans leading this big group in the battle for second right now on the opening lap. Waiting to see just how many laps the riders will do. They hope to come in at just a little more than an hour in terms of the total time of the race. So they have to go for about 15 minutes or so before they can calculate just how many laps it'll take them to get to that hour-plus mark on this 2.8-kilometer course that's just under 2 miles in total length. End of lap number 1. The leader by a long way is Mathieu van der Poel of the Netherlands. A replay from last week in Iowa City. The Dutch rider has a lead after an opening lap of just over 7 minutes. His margin is 12 seconds. Quentin Hermans leading that next group through in second place. And looking over his shoulder, he's wondering who else is going to come through and help pull. Who's going to help to pull Van der Poel back? Or is it going to be a battle for second right from the start?
Well, it's too early to say that. I think the race is not over yet. But something else I noticed, I checked, we probably have 80% of the riders riding with a bottle cage on there, which then is good in the heat, but it makes it more complicated to get the bike on your shoulder because the bottle cage is in your way. But they probably sacrificed a little bit of comfort for the necessity to have actually some water with them because it is extremely hot here.
Mathieu van der Poel already over the Trek flyover. He is adding to his margin. Another bike change in the pit here. It's like Lawrence Swake, who last week was second and who won at Cross Vegas on Wednesday. And at that Cross Vegas race out in the desert on Wednesday night, it was the Swake brothers finishing 1-2. Lawrence ahead of Dieter. So two Swakes in the top two. Not all of these riders made the long trip out to Las Vegas for that midweek event. Many stayed here in the Midwest to concentrate on this race this weekend. Cross Vegas was not a World Cup this year the way it was last year, so not as high a profile, so many riders choosing to remain in the Midwest as a result. Mathieu van der Poel, what a beast from the opening gun, opening up a huge lead. And right now, the battle for second is the only battle we have. It's a 21-second lead for Van der Poel over second place as he comes through this tricky descent, the off-camber descent down through the trees. Jens, how big of a surprise is this? I know Van der Poel did a similar thing last week in Iowa City, but how was he able to get away so quickly like this?
I talked to people when he did like this little test race here, and they said, you know, I see in him a younger version of Peter Sagan. He's brilliant on the road, he's super brilliant out here. I think he just got the skill set, taking the corner just a little faster than anybody else. He accelerates, he got a lot of punch power, so he can just accelerate out of his corners quicker, and you can see him running up this hill already, and there's nobody else in the picture.
A Segafredo run up. And number 20, Mathieu van der Poel, the first one up it. Nobody else has even started that run up yet.
All the riders now amassing in that chase group.
And it is Tim Millier of Belgium leading this next group. He's pushing the bike instead of carrying it. Either way, he's off the bike, but perhaps pushing saves a little more energy than carrying it. That's always a concern on a hot day. How much energy you have to use when you get off your bike. It'd be easier if you could ride it to save the energy, but it's just too slippery and steep and they can't do it.
Another thing you have to pay attention to is your heart rate. In a hot condition like that, if your heart rate once is too high, it is very, very hard to bring it back down into the green level. So once you overcook it, then it's hard to come back from that.
Yeah, that's the question with Mathieu van der Poel. Going out hot the way he has, a fast start like we saw in Iowa City last week, but with the heat, will it at some point play a role? Because unlike a road race, where you can go back in the peloton, hide and recover for a while and find that second win, you can't do it in cyclocross. If you drop back at any point during a race like this, it's only an hour long at full throttle, your race is over.
That's true, but I believe now that he got almost 30 seconds, 28 seconds, the latest information we have here, his advantage. He got time to play with now, so he can go from attack modus back into cruise modus and try to ride a little slower, a little more efficient, and save a little energy, recover a little, and hopefully for him, hang on to this position until the end of the race. He looks flawless. The way he jumps, the way he takes the corners, I'm just blown away by that.
Is it more a case of other riders not wanting to chase so early, or that Van der Poel is so strong that they can't chase in the early going?
I believe he took him by surprise. I don't think anybody really seriously thought he is actually trying to gain 30 seconds within the first 2 laps. They thought probably he just wants to go to the front to have the best possible line. They never expected him to go all out within the first lap.
They saw him do it last week in Iowa City. Wouldn't they have been prepared this week?
They should, right? I mean, it's like a déjà vu for them.
But now with this kind of a margin, half a minute on only the second lap, Van der Poel has a race now in front of him that has all of a sudden changed in complexion because it alters the way he can race. He can be more conservative. He can take the line that he wants. He can dial it back if he needs to. He can measure his effort. All of these things that you typically couldn't do in a group, Van der Poel now has at his disposal as he works with this big lead. Going through that sprinkler a moment ago. Even with the breeze, brutal conditions here in Wisconsin. It's the first official weekend of autumn, but it feels like midsummer with a temperature near 90. And if you can believe it, it was even hotter yesterday and on Friday. It's cooled off by a few degrees, but still the heat and humidity combined are making it extremely hard for the riders. Certainly not something they're used to on the bulk of the World Cup season that takes place in the fall and winter months over in Europe, where it can be freezing, snowing.
I believe most of them, they came early enough to get adapted to the different time zone and the climate, so it shouldn't affect them too much. Oh my God, just look at the distance he put into them. Holy smokes, that is impressive.
He won by almost a minute last week, and his lead right now on just the second lap is over half a minute. So we could see even a bigger finishing gap this week than we saw just 1 week ago. Well, some riders having to get off. Steep and slippery, having to dismount, push their bikes up. And now here is Mathieu Van der Poel. His lead swelling as he starts out on lap number 3 with a sizable advantage in Waterloo, Wisconsin.
And the way he was sprinting across the line, it did not look like he is actually taking a conservative approach. He looked like he's still all in.
And now somewhat of a gap opening up in the battle for second place that was so tight for a while. On the start of lap 3 of 9. Merlier, the Belgian, in second. Corne van Kessel comes across third. And Tornhout rounding out the top 5.
Where's the world champion? I haven't seen him there.
Now remember, after the bike change in the pit, he was well back. But Van der Poel continues to keep the pressure on, looking to bury the rest of this field. Get some air on the flyover even. Loves to get air going over the flyover. Very much a showman, animated rider. And if he could bury the field here in the opening laps, he could really throttle back later on. And maybe that's the thinking. I mean, as long as he doesn't have some kind of an issue, a mechanical, a crash, he's putting this one away early.
Well, I guess he's also counting on the fact that maybe 1 or 2 gonna catch him. There's not a group of 10 riders gonna catching him. So maybe you see that? He is doing a little fun jump up there. He must be feeling so good still.
Peter Sagan would be proud.
Yes, absolutely.
The now 3-time road world champion after his win earlier today in Norway.
That was impressive, to say the least.
Now this is also impressive. Mathieu Van der Poel from the opening gun, taking the lead and not looking back. And for a tricky section like this, he doesn't really have to worry. He can take the foot out, tripod, maintain the stability he needs, and not have to worry about speed and staying ahead of other riders.
That's another good point, Steve. When you're by yourself, you can judge the effort you want to do. And especially like after this little hills and the running parts, you can jump on the bike and accelerate the way you want. If you're with a group, you have to follow the wheel ahead of you, and sometimes you have to go harder than you want to catch that bike again, to catch that rider again. So it is more efficient to be by yourself.
Back to the Segafredo run-up after the brief section on pavement. This 2.8K course in Waterloo, Wisconsin, just 10% pavement, 90% grass, dirt, or rocks. Some riders going wide on that descent. Hard to control, it's so slippery.
So as we can see on the screen, it's 9 laps for the riders to finish. So when they cross the finish line now, it's 1/3 of the race done.
And now this group
A few more minutes.
on the Segafredo run-up led by Veldrit.
A few riders up, I think that might be Veldrit Waterloo out there.
7 Belgians in the top 10, but the race led by a Dutch rider and Mathieu van der Poel. "37 seconds to gap to second place." More riders now riding the logs, given the fact there's more gaps in the field now. It is the Trek factory off to the right. Trek's world headquarters here in Waterloo. Again, just about 40 minutes east of Madison, the state capital, about an hour west of Milwaukee. Van der Poel with nobody in sight. Second time past the pit on this lap. They passed the pit twice in every lap. The other riders now in the fight for second place over the barriers. There is Wout van Aert, the reigning world champion. He is way back in the field. That rainbow jersey. It's going to be the second consecutive difficult race for him on this U.S. swing of the Cyclocross World Cup. After finishing 14th last week in Iowa City, outside the top 10 right now, early on today in Wisconsin.
There was a little hiccup of that rider that's now in the pits, coming there. Either he crashed into the barriers or he seemed to have a problem. The guy that's just coming there at the pits, he seemed to have a major issue.
Lawrence Swake. We've already seen him in the pit once. This is the second time.
Something wrong with his shoe now. Yeah,
So he's got an issue with his shoe. The buckle on his shoe for Lawrence Swake has become a problem. And boy, oh boy, what a tough race this has turned into for him. 2 times in the pits, losing a lot of time. He was second last week in Iowa City, first on Wednesday in Las Vegas, but he's going to be well down in the standings today, conceding a lot of time here in the pits.
Maybe just for the German champion coming past.
Oh, look back at...
Ah, there's a crash. See it back there? That's it. That explains. I almost did that 2 days ago, or yesterday, almost. So I know exactly the corner.
So that'll cost Lawrence Swake. No issue for Mathieu van der Poel. At the very front of the race.
These guys actually take an interesting line on this track hill there, the run-up. They go from the low, from the bottom, take a wide corner, and other people, like other racers, I've never seen it, taking that line. So the boys here, the men, doing slightly different than the ladies or whatever anybody else does it.
What's the advantage to that, do you think?
I think they try to take some steepness out of the hill, try to get a bit of more momentum going, to get a little bit more speed going into the climb.
And this will be the start of lap 4 coming up for the leader, Van der
See,
Poel.
they show up from the bottom, out of the shade. We can't even see him anymore. And that I've never seen in any other race before in the whole weekend.
3 laps down for our leader, Mathieu van der Poel. And let's see where the lead stands as the next riders get set to come through. How much has it grown? 37 seconds at last check on the GPS.
It's hovering a little bit, but he keeps adding 1 second, 2 seconds to it. So he's going to be close to 40 seconds when he is on the finish line, I believe.
Dan Sota moving into second earlier in the lap. And now the lead for Van der Poel is going to be clocked at right at 35 seconds as a group of 4 comes across in the battle for second place. Belgians.
The world champion just passed the finish line, so he's gonna find it hard to even get a top 10 here. Doesn't seem to have the best day today, poor guy.
He was 12th place, 51 seconds back when he started that most recent lap. Belgians just all over this race. You have Van der Poel, a Dutch rider, leading. Corne van Kessel, his Dutch teammate, in 4th. But beyond that, the Dutch occupy every other spot in the top 15. Again, 19 Belgians altogether in the race here today. 58 riders in the field.
Well, I still think the Dutchies do it a lot more efficient. They only have 2 people here, but they are leading in 4th. Chapeau for that.
Now, the most interesting battle was for second place last week in Iowa City. Could be the case here today, although the chase group, this contingent of 4, is starting to break up somewhat. As we're back to our leader, Van der Poel. Kind of dragging the foot on the dirt there. And you see the gusting winds. It's been breezy all day long, but it seems like the wind is gusting more now here in the late afternoon hours.
I would agree, Steve. I would agree. The wind's just getting a little stronger more. Or now, just getting a little stronger now.
Telnet, a team with 2 riders in this chase group. So half of the group of 4 would expect them to take turns pulling here. These other riders certainly looking to the Telnet team to do the chasing, but one of the riders having somewhat of an issue there, getting close to the barriers, and Van der Poel continuing to ride away from them. Second group here behind Van der Poel. Again, Sota, Merlier, Van Kessel, and then Torenhout are the riders in that second group. Over half a minute behind our leader. Boy, how discouraging must it be for some of these riders to have someone like Van der Poel just disappear on the opening lap, right away from you, and take a huge step towards putting this race away so early on such a hot day. They know it's going to be hard and demanding, and when one guy rides away, I know maybe it's not surprising, but psychologically, how difficult is it for them?
Well, I guess they are already starting to focus now on maybe getting a second place. Here again, we see 3 people jumping and 1 was running. So majority of them actually, yes, trying to jump up there and stay on their bikes. Staying on the bike, I think it's quicker. But if you run, no, running is quicker, but you lose a little more energy. Running is just safer, but you use more energy.
Well, Mathieu Van der Poel, the 22-year-old, who was actually born in Antwerp, Belgium, but grew up in the Netherlands, no doubt has terrific form that he has brought over from his mountain bike season, because that just flows right into the start of the cyclocross season. But the cyclocross campaign is so long, the interesting thing from here on out is going to be how long can he hold this for. After today's race, they take a break of almost a month before the next World Cup event in mid-October over in Europe. The World Championships are early February, so clearly Van der Poel benefiting from his mountain bike form at the start of the cyclocross season. Now the question is, how long can he hang on to it?
Well, maybe Van der Poel goes, I want to win the World Cup, and I see how I go at the World Championships. And the reigning world champion, he goes, I want to defend my title, so I'm going to start a little easier into the season and just getting in my peak shape when I need it. at the World Championship. So maybe different approach to the season.
Now look at this, Wout van Aert. Another bike change. That's number 2 for him. So you have Wout van Aert, the reigning world champion, with his second bike change. We saw last week's second place finisher Laurens Sweeck in the pits twice already. So some high profile marquee names having difficulties here in this race today in Waterloo. Now there was a crash a moment ago. We'll take you back to it shortly. This man has not crashed. Our leader, Mathieu van der Poel, another perfect ride so far today in Wisconsin. Almost looks too easy.
Yes, it does. So yeah, now we can watch. He takes a very low line. He almost disappears in the shade down here. And then he takes the corner from the outside, trying to gain the momentum, but tire slipped one time on the loose sand and you have to get off the bike.
Now he's ridden that most of the times up it, but with a big lead, can afford to get off and run a little. His lead right now at 36 seconds. Race for second place still between 4 riders. And Mathieu van der Poel making this left-hand turn that takes him back to the start-finish area. Over halfway through the race now. There's the gap between the riders battling for second and the next group on the course. And Mathieu van der Poel hoping to add to his lead as he starts out on lap number 5. World champion in this group here, Wout van Aert, going up the hill. Here's the 4 vying for the remaining 2 spots on the podium, second and third. Always a Telenet rider at the front of this group doing the chasing. And Van der Poel's lead now 39 seconds. 4 laps in the bag already.
I must say I'm impressed or surprised by the differences in time gaps here we see. I mean, they're all world-class athletes. I thought they would stay closer together for the first half of the race. But we see huge gaps already, little groups everywhere. And it's not even half of the race done yet. I'm surprised how hard they race. There's no holding back here. There's not too much tactics going on here, I believe.
Is Van der Poel just that much better than everybody else? Are they miscalculating something, or is there something that is a part of the nature of what we've seen over the last 2 weeks in these races in the US that have made such a big difference?
I believe it might be a combination of like all of it. He is young, he's an upcoming talent. He is, I think, just really gifted by nature with the talent. And as you said, he just comes out of a mountain bike season, so he got the rhythm, he got the hard racing miles in their legs. And the rest of the guys, they just starting here, so they missing some of the rhythm. So that plays to his advantage, I believe.
Rider coming out of the pit here. And Van der Poel once again onto the off-camber slippery descent. Taking the same line each and every time through there. And then back uphill. Lap 5 of 9 on the day as they try to bring the men in with a total time of just over 1 hour.
So now, since we are sitting at the start and finish line here, I see still riders crossing the line. They got almost 3 minutes. They are behind him. They're gonna get lapped. He's gonna lap some of these riders.
And riders that are that far back will be pulled off in order to keep the track clear.
Yeah, let's hope that once he start lapping the other riders, that nobody gets caught behind somebody slower, that they show enough respect and get out of the way. So I just heard that we're not gonna have people getting lapped. They have an 80% rule. So if you are 80% behind the leader's time, they take you out.
Segafredo run up. When all of these guys are running behind in the overall.
But that's still 4 of them, so they can share the work a little bit. Maybe it helps them in the end. Don't forget, we just have done half of it.
2 riders in that group of 4 from Telenet, and they're both at the front now. This is the next group behind them. That includes Wout van Aert, the world champion. Mathieu van der Poel over the barriers. Now, because of the technical nature of this course, a lot of turns just like this in an open field, Van der Poel will always get a sense of where everybody else is behind him. He won't always have to turn around. He'll be able to look over to the side either way and oftentimes see where the others are.
Also, I believe he has enough teammates on the course. They tell him exactly the position of everybody else and how much time he has.
So good through the turns, in the run-up, on some of the descents. His technique has been virtually flawless. No mistakes. And when you build up a lead like he has now, which they're calling 43 seconds on the GPS, you can even afford some mistakes and still manage your lead. You can bleed a little time and still not be too concerned. That's what getting such a big margin early can do for you.
2 teammates in there and then 2 odd men out.
The thing you always just hope for is that you can stay free of the mechanicals, because those are the more unpredictable elements.
Here he was enjoying the water, the little shower there. He actually did move over there, so get closer into the shower, get some fresh cold water to freshen the body up and cooling down the body, which is an important fact on a hot day like today.
Yeah, many times riders won't have bottles in cyclocross because it's such a short effort, and many times it's much colder, but with the heat today, right around 90 degrees Fahrenheit, many choosing to carry bottles.
I believe this might be the only World Cup race in the season where we see the riders starting with the bottle on the...
Other riders going through the shower, which is again an unusual feature that's just put in for today because of the heat. Won't see that anywhere else. Back to Van der Poel at the front. More like an exhibition for him these last 2 weeks than an actual competition. Once the World Cup takes a month-long break after today's race, a lot of these riders are going to have to use that time to figure out what they can do to challenge this man, who is about to start his next lap momentarily. Mathieu van der Poel, his lead ballooning in Waterloo, Wisconsin, starts out on his next lap on the way to what should be his second consecutive World Cup win. That's Toon Aerts going up the climb now. World champion Wout van Aert next here in the rainbow jersey. Toon Aerts, the European champion right now. Here's our second group on the course, that group of 4, Sota, Van Kessel, Van Torenhout, and Melier. Well behind this man, Mathieu van der Poel. 43 seconds back.
And he's still not slowing down. Look at the power in him.
Again, a little hop over the track flyover.
He is still enjoying himself.
Now Wout van Aert gonna come to the front now. The world champion. After 2 trips through the pit area, now coming to the front, looking to lead the chase.
I believe he's still looking for some good points at the World Cup to keep himself in contention with it, and not losing all hopes for World Cup lead or World Cup win one day. So he's just trying to limit the loss. Or he's still hoping to catch up to this group.
Well, even the minor placings do carry UCI points, and that impacts your starting position for the next race. And as we saw today and also last week in Iowa City, the start is paramount. You have to be near the front to have any shot at finishing near the front. So an accumulation of points throughout the season is critical. It's not like you can see a Mathieu van der Poel ride to the front and say, all right, we're going to take the rest of the race off. You still have to fight for every position because that carries points. Altogether, it's the top 20 places that will offer points. But that could still be several minutes down. So the fight can be intense, not just at the front of the race, but down through the field. Mathieu van der Poel, a 22-year-old world champion back in 2015, a 2-time junior world champion, 2-time European champion, one of his 2 junior cyclocross world titles, actually won in the US. That was in Louisville back in 2013. And this is a course that they've been racing on at various levels since 2013, as the Trek Corporation built this course a few years ago, and they've been holding races here for the last several years in anticipation of eventually landing a World Cup event for the first time this year.
Just got a couple of bike lengths, and that is rider number 21.
Rider getting caught along the fencing there. Looked like that was Corne van Kessel.
So Holland, first and second.
This is Van Kessel again at that little fencing area. Didn't cost him much. Still led the way in the Segafredo run-up. Kevin Powell's going up in the blue. So the formula is pretty simple for Van der Poel out front, but with the 4 guys that are still battling for second place, what are they thinking at this point? Over halfway through the race, what's the calculus in their minds about how they're going to pull off the podium position?
Yeah, I believe they need a minor miracle to catch this rider, our leader here, Van der Poel. So they're gonna settle for second place, and now I think they start making some plans of how they're gonna secure a spot on the podium. So hopefully, to make the race more exciting, we're gonna see some attacks in the chasing group coming soon.
Three of those riders in that group of 4 are Belgians. By the way, Jeremy Powers, one of the top American riders, has pulled out of the race. And this man, Mathieu van der Poel, pulling away in the race.
Let's go!
Now, not much change these last couple of laps. Still Van der Poel with the sizable lead at the front. Group of 4, the second contingent on the course. and they really haven't split up too much. The biggest change has come back here with Wout van Aert leading the third group. Toon Aert's the rider right behind him, so you have the world champion in Wout van Aert, the European champion in Toon Aerts. And they are pacing that third group on the course that is now starting to come apart somewhat. Wout van Aert, though, looking stronger. And things seem to be going better for him now as this race has progressed. Remember, 2 trips through the pit earlier really cost him.
On this corner, I noticed our leader here, Van der Poel, he is the only one taking the one leg out of the one short of the pedal. Probably gives him more balance. He is almost the only one in the whole race. He does it every lap, so I think for him it's just the fastest way to go around the corner. The back wheel is sliding around the corner. His leg on the inside of the corner is out of the pedal to give him more stability. And I don't think anybody else does it like him.
Just kind of letting the bike slide, taking the turn. Just letting it happen, letting the bike do the leading. Makes it an easy way to go through because you don't really have to worry about all the seconds at this point. A 49-second gap at the moment on lap 6 of 9. And the next lap about to commence for Mathieu van der Poel. Once again, he starts a lap solo. No one even in his rear view mirror. Mathieu van der Poel of the Netherlands maintaining a consistent speed, just over 25 km/h, and leaving the field in the Wisconsin dust.
I believe it's fair to say he's going to win again with more than a minute of advantage. He's already at 50 seconds, 3 laps to go. So about 15 minutes maybe. And yeah, that's enough time for him to actually gain enough time. So he's going to win with another minute of advantage.
3 laps remaining for all these riders. Van der Poel, the first to start the final 3. And now our second group, with nobody really taking a big dig. And now Soda, Van Kessel, Van Torenhout, and Mellier start the first of the final 3 laps. Trek flyover for Van der Poel. More straightforward this time. Maybe the heat and the fatigue starting to set in. No little hop over the top of the flyover. Now Mathieu van der Poel went to the front at the opening gun and has once again led from the outset. Was the first through the opening corner and has never looked back. His lead widening with almost every lap. 50 seconds the margin back to this second group of 4 right now. This group starting to accelerate a little bit more, it seems. Nobody getting away here in this second group on the course. Mathieu van der Poel on a little uphill after the descent. Now, Jens, how many times in your Tour de France career did you have a road stage where you essentially just hit the hammer at the gun, rode away from the field, and you stayed away the whole day?
Never.
So you never experienced something like this, huh?
I guess the last time I did that was when I was like 11 years old. But after that, never.
A unique feeling indeed.
And it's impressive. I mean, he's hanging on to it and he's not slowing down. He's still looking strong, flawless. He doesn't do any mistakes in terms of, you know, jumping over obstacles, getting on and off the bike. He is still absolutely perfect. He's still in control.
And speaking of road racing, as these next 4 deal with the descent, Van der Poel has some experience on the road and has shown his versatility as a cyclist already at the age of 22. We've documented his cyclocross achievements, but as he has turned to road, earlier this season, he won a stage at the Tour of Belgium, won stage 2 against some pretty high-profile riders.
Yes, I believe he did beat a certain Philippe Gilbert. And I think it's fair to say that Philippe Gilbert is not the worst rider in the world. There's the chasing group on the track run-up. Still all 4 of them together, but it does look like they go a little faster. Pardon me, it was a Segafredo run-up.
Now for Van der Poel, he actually won 3 different times on the road this season. And much of the big speculation in the Belgian media is about Van der Poel and Wout van Aert turning their attention full-time to road racing because there's more money in the sport and more prestige for certain races. So will they, sooner rather than later, go over to the road full-time and leave cyclocross behind?
Well, I had the chance to have breakfast with his manager, Jan, this morning, and we talked about exactly that. But I believe it was a private conversation, so I don't think I'm allowed to actually tell everybody.
Oh, you're just going to tease us?
Well,
Oh.
yes, actually, yes, that's what I'm going to do.
Well, what do you think the smart move would be, in your mind?
I would try to become world champion one more time here. Because he's obviously in really good shape. I would try to actually be the best you can be at this sport. Well, and then let's see how far you can go at some other sport.
How hard would it be to split his time? Do some cyclocross races, maybe just the World Championships, but spend more of your time on the road?
It seemed to work, or did work for a while, for Stinek Stuber. He was racing full gas in the classic season, still becoming twice world champion in cyclocross. But it's both of them are hard sports, seasons are long, you have no break in between, so you risk to burn out your body at the age of 25 if you want too much.
And think about the road cycling season by itself is so long, from January all the way through October.
And it also requires a different type of rider, these two sports. You gotta be strong, athletic, and punchy to be good in this sport, because it's 1 hour. You don't need any bicep or any shoulder, any muscles on your upper body as a road cyclist, because you just have to be as skinny as you can be to be a good road cyclist. So it's different type of body needed. So it's hard to split it up. In the moment, it seemed to work really good for him.
Well, he is clearly dominating at the outset of this World Cup campaign through the first 2 races in the U.S. This is the second group again on the course, a group of 4. Not gaining any ground, but this group also not splitting up yet. As that contest for the final 2 spots on the podium is yet to really take shape. And where he walked up last time, Wout van Aert rides up that little climb this time through. Two laps to go for Wout van Aert and the others. Wout van Aert leading that 3rd group. Behind this group of 4 with Mathieu van der Poel, the man here out front making the final turn on the course, headed towards that start-finish line. His lead growing. And now 2 laps remaining for the 22-year-old Dutch rider Mathieu van der Poel.
And still keeping the average speed above 25 kilometers an hour. That is very impressive at this circuit. It's a tough circuit.
Heat has certainly not made it easy. The course, by comparison to some of the others on the World Cup, is probably one of the more mild courses that they will race. Not as much elevation change as they had last week in Iowa City. There are some technical corners, but not all that difficult. some slippery sections because of the hot and dry conditions. However, they will see much more demanding courses in Europe when the World Cup season resumes next month.
See the difference of the body language. Them just cruising across the line. Now they go a little faster. And we just saw the leader, how he is just punching. He's just punishing the pedals, going so fast. So, yeah, I think they just realized they're never going to catch him again.
Wout van Aert in this group, the world champion, and this group starting to come apart. The second group just rode through 55 seconds behind Van der Poel, and the Wout van Aert group over a minute down. Not a good day for the other two podium placers from last week in Iowa City. Lawrence Swake, who was second last week in Iowa, has been to the pit twice. He's crashed. He's well down in the standings. Quentin Hermans, who was third last week in Iowa, he's over a minute down, in 9th place at the moment. Looks like the final two podium placers this week will come from the four-man group that contains Cornevet Kessel, Tim Mellier, Dan Sota, and Michael Van Torenhout. And group of four that has consistently been the second group on the course most of the day. And now Wout van Aert really cranking up the pressure here. Trying to make a move and gain as much time as he can.
He is really going for it.
Last week he was undone by a series of mechanicals and wound up finishing in 14th place. 2.5 minutes behind Van der Poel. Now the American champ, Stephen Hyde, just started his 8th lap, coming through over a minute down. Segafredo run up for the leader, Van der Poel. Now working his way towards the end of this two-race World Cup stop in the U.S. to kick off the season. The 2017-18 Telenet UCI Cyclocross World Cup beginning a week ago today in Iowa City. And then coming here to Waterloo, Wisconsin, 40 minutes northeast of Madison. And coming here for a World Cup for the first time ever at the Trek Bicycle Company's world headquarters. It's a campus that has been staging cyclocross racing for several years, but this is the first time it's ever been designated a World Cup race. And they hope it's the first of many. And good crowds each of these two opening weekends in the American Midwest. Despite hot conditions at both locations, in the 80s last week in Iowa and close to 90 today in Wisconsin.
From what I've heard from feedback of the riders, they liked it. It's nicely organized. Parking spot is there, the changing zone, the bike change zone is well organized. They like it. Nice setup, so hopefully everybody wants to come back and we have this World Cup going on for another 10 years.
Yeah, they like to hold the first two races of the World Cup season in the U.S. You don't know until they come out with the calendar for the next year exactly who's going to get those two, but this race here in Waterloo has been a big success in its first year, so things you would think look good for their future. How about the future of our second group on the course? This contingent of four, and it is still almost a minute behind our leader.
Oh, there Messi goes first bike change, I think, if I remember right. It's his first bike change.
Yep, first time in the pit for Mathieu Van der Poel. Got a fresh bottle on there too.
That's, I think, maybe the only reason they got a fresh water bottle, because in cyclocross actually it is forbidden or outside the rules to grab a drink from somebody outside. You can have a fresh bottle on your bike, and as you can see how he's cooling his body down, pouring cold water over his head. That's probably the main reason why he went into the pits.
Yeah, you can only get a feed, you can only get water in the pit area in cyclocross. It's not like in the road discipline where you can get it from the team car or soigneurs. All services, all mechanicals, all feeding in cyclocross has got to be done in the pit. Now, fans can squirt riders with a bottle. That's not forbidden. You just can't take a bottle out on the course as a rider.
Exactly. So So there's the chasing group, still together, they're still working, but, well, it's a little gap, but I don't see that group splitting apart yet.
How much feeding or drinking did you take in your race
Wait,
yesterday?
well,
Did you have like a piece of pizza, a hot dog out there? I know you were kind of yucking it up.
I did start without a bottle because the professionals told me the first thing you need to drop is the bottle cage.
Okay.
But I actually did stop to take 2 times a beer from a spectator. But my race was outside the UCI. It was not the official UCI race.
It was not sanctioned.
Yes, I could do whatever I want. So I stopped, let 2 people pass me and finished a nice 3rd place. I figured, you know what? I don't need to win here. So I stopped, take 2 beers with the spectators and finished 3rd.
Hey,
fantastic day.
On a hot day, you gotta hydrate with the lager in Wisconsin.
Absolutely.
They take this back to Europe for round number 3.
You didn't get a beer shower like they have out here with the water today, did you?
That would be quite a novelty. We should mention it for next year.
That's more of an Alpe d'Huez type of setting.
And just saw the leader coming through. He's still riding up that steep, hard climb. The last one, the Trek Factory Hill, still riding up there, so he must still feeling good and strong. Still smooth on his bike. He's doing like a flawless performance here.
He'll get the bell for 1 lap to go next time through. And when will we see the battle for 2nd and 3rd really start to develop? Here's our leader, Vanderpool, around that final corner. Bells will be ringing, and the final lap will commence momentarily. Mathieu Vanderpool leading from the outset now with 1 lap remaining in Waterloo, Wisconsin. Toon Aerts in the white jersey at the bottom of the screen starting to move up. Wout van Aert, the world champion, now at the back of the group. Remember, he really started to drill it on that last lap as they went over the flyover, but has lost some steam since.
Well, he's back up to 8th position, so he did make up a few positions from earlier this race when he was first, when he was outside the top 10. So he's still looking good, he's still going strong.
And now the second group at 52 seconds back. And remember, 2 Telenet riders in this group should be able to work together tactically to set up at least one for 2nd place.
You would think so, right?
Strategically, that would be the play. We'll see if it happens. Next group with Toon Aerts and Wout van Aert, European and world champion, coming through over a minute down. Now Telenet at the front of this second group, starting to lift the pace. This is what you would expect on the final lap.
Oh, you can see this group, they're on full fly. They even like hit some air on the top of that flyover there. They almost like got both wheels in the air. They got so much speed. They're really going for it here.
Corner Van Kessel leading the way at the front of the group. Van Torenhout at the back. Oh, looks like Wout van Aert starting to make a move again. That's our leader of the entire race, Mathieu Vanderpool, on the descent. Now working his way back uphill. Now, what a remarkable 2 weekends in the U.S. it's going to be for Mathieu Vanderpool. He's going to complete both of these races in Iowa City and in Waterloo, Wisconsin, without having trailed at all. Getting the whole shot and the lead on the opening lap of each race and going wire to wire.
That's got to be pretty intimidating for the competition. To go, are we that bad or is he that good?
Tim Merlier taking the lead in the second group. He's number 9 there. On this descent, taking it carefully, high line. race for second and third right here in this group of four. The final two spots in the podium will be taken up by half of this group. Top step, not in doubt. It belongs to that man. With a Dutch fan riding alongside.
Chases for the
And
better
the
part of the
Segafredo
last
run up for the
2 or 3
final
laps.
time for our second group out there.
It looks like these four riders are almost at the same level. Nobody is able to just, get out of this group or drop the others. So it might come down to a little sprint out of this group for the remaining 2 spots on the podium.
Still not a lot of separation between these four. Mathieu van der Poel, the 22-year-old Dutch rider. A coronation for him here on this final lap. Leading by just about 50 seconds. Van der Poel from a family of professional cyclists. His brother, a prominent cyclocross racer who won the 2013 National Under-23 Championship. His dad, a 6-time national champion. World champion as well, and a 2-time stage winner at the Tour de France. And don't forget about his maternal grandfather, who was a Grand Tour winner at the Vuelta a España back in the 60s. So quite a pedigree, quite a very legendary cycling family, rich heritage. And the next in line is the 22-year-old Mathieu van der Poel, showing all indications he's ready to live up to the family name.
I think just before that, we saw the American champion coming through the picture, getting into the Segafredo run-up.
Now the 2 Telenet riders leading the way at the front of the second group. Again, trying to strategically play the tactical game to get both riders on the podium, but at least get second place on this final lap. Merlier and Van Toren out at the back of this group. Sutter and Van Kessel at the front. Bob Benner at the back of the group with Kevin Powles. And through the shower for the final time, Mathieu van der Poel. World champion from 2015. 2-time junior world champion. Stage winner on the road at the Tour of Belgium this year. And he's going to be a World Cup winner at the Telenet UCI Cyclocross World Cup for the 2nd week in a row. After capturing last week's event in Iowa City, just about ready to put the finishing touches on the first ever World Cup race in Waterloo, Wisconsin. And now they're opening up the attacks on the pavement in the battle for second place.
It looks like Van Toren now.
Sota and Van Kessel trying to distance Merlier and Van Torenhout. Now Van Torenhout struggling to stay at the back of this group. Merlier, the Belgian, making his move in the green helmet up into second place. Oh, and then he slips and falls. That could cost him. Has to remount very quickly. Now Corne Van Kessel at the front of the group.
And you don't have much time to repair that mistake because it's like half a mile or less.
For the 2nd week in a row on the Telenet UCI Cyclocross World Cup, Mathieu van der Poel, an emphatic, glorious win here in the U.S. as he captures the victory today in Waterloo, Wisconsin. And now the race for the final 2 spots on the podium as the confetti flies at the finish. Van Kessel ahead of Merlier, Sota, and Van Torenhout. The Telenet team occupying the first 2 spots out of this group. Merlier has been dropped, Van Torenhout fading. It's going to be the 2 Telenet riders on the podium today. Van Kessel and Sota from the Netherlands and Belgium take second and third. Van Torenhout falling off the pace with Merlier late. World champion Wout van Aert made up some ground late in the closing laps. He finishes within a minute in 7th place. And there's the European champion who also gets a top 10, Toon Aerts, at exactly 1 minute behind our winner, Mathieu van der Poel. Quinten Hermans just crossing over as well. Last week he was on the podium in 3rd in Iowa. Wout van Aert absolutely spent. Steve Chanel crossing the finish line. This race just about an hour and 7 minutes. And guys drained and falling over, lying on their backs at the finish because of the demanding conditions. Rarely do you see these scenes at other World Cup races in cyclocross. Guys so drained that they immediately sit down or lie down. And that's what this heat has taken out of some of the world's best. Stephen Hyde, U.S. champion, in 18th place, 2 minutes 10 seconds back. He's the top American on the day. So Stephen Hyde, by finishing inside the top 20, will get UCI points that'll help in his start position for the next race, which will be in mid-October over in Europe. An easy ride, coronation, celebration, as the confetti flies for Mathieu van der Poel, who gets the win ahead of the 2 Telenet riders, Van Kessel and Sota, who sprinted away to take 2nd and 3rd. What was most impressive to you about Mathieu van der Poel here today in Wisconsin, Jens?
How he did not hesitate for a split second to go out all alone in the first lap. He seemed to be so sure that he can pull it off. The confidence he had, that just blew me away.
And not only winning the first 2 races of the World Cup season in Iowa and Wisconsin, but dominating and not even trailing. Taking the whole shot in both races and then riding away from everybody. Winning last week by just over 50 seconds. Winning today by just over half a minute. Could have been more, but he had a bike change late to pick up some water, kind of cruised in there at the end, so conceded seconds that way. Any way you slice it, a convincing, definitive victory for van der Poel to open up the season. 2 of 9 races now in the books, 7 left to go, and who is going to challenge that man the rest of the way?
They can only hope that he slows down later in the season, that he pays a price for getting into the season, like hitting the ground running. That's what he did. And maybe the other ones take a little slower approach to it and hope they get him in the second half of the season. If that happens, we don't know, but that's the only chance they have.
Well, look at it this way, though. If you're Mathieu van der Poel, even if you lose a little and your form slides somewhat, you're winning by so much, you can afford to bleed some time and form. As you see the unofficial results, led by van der Poel in his 33-second margin over Corne van Kessel. Don Sota completing the podium, Van Torenhout and Merlier rounding out the top 5. And all Belgians from 3rd through 10th place. Flip the page, a Belgian in 11th as well. Lars van der Haar, Dutch rider, former leader of the World Cup, outside the top 15, kind of a surprising result. Americans here inside the top 30. Kerry Werner, Tobin Ortenblad, 2 younger riders, just finishing over 3 minutes back of the winner today. Against Stephen Hyde, top American in 18th place. But nobody touching the winner for the 2nd straight week, Mathieu van der Poel of the Netherlands. Van der Poel winning, going away by over half a minute today in front of a good crowd in Waterloo, Wisconsin.
And he's going to have quite the lead now in the overall standings of the World Cup. 2 wins out of 2 races. He's going to have a big advantage on second and third place riders.
Now felt the heat, even though he didn't show it on the race course. Wout van Aert certainly felt it. We saw him lying down at the end as he finished just inside of 1 minute back, making up some ground late. Wout van Aert last week 14th in Iowa, but a top 10 today here in Waterloo.
Wout van Aert, dat was al beter dan vorige week, maar toch niet de start die jij wilde, denk ik, hier vandaag, hè?
Nee, ik voelde me eigenlijk stukken beter, maar vooral in de start was ik eigenlijk al goed. Ik zat de top 5 en dan viel Lars van der Haar voor mij. Ik kon er niet meer langs en er reed iemand in mijn derailleur van achter. Dan was mijn versnellingsapparaat erbij, was dat krom gekomen en toen ik plaats probeerde goed te maken, mijn sluiting met mijn schoen los. Dus allemaal in de eerste ronde en ik denk dat ik niet in de top 20 zat. Want dan moest ik ook nog eens van fiets wisselen door dat stuk versnellingsapparaat. En dan was het een lange inhaalbeweging, maar het was een parcours waar echt heel weinig mogelijkheden waren om op te schuiven. Dus ik heb me heel veel gefrustreerd in het wiel dat ik niet door kon. Toen ik het tweede deel wel door kon, waren de gaten een beetje gevallen. En ik denk dat ik wel even sterk was als die groep die voor de tweede plaats reed. Maar ik raakte gewoon niet meer bij. Dus ja, het gevoel was een stuk beter, maar ja, het mocht nog niet meezitten.
Ik wou het je net vragen, kwam dat puur door het parcours dat jullie niet meer bij die tweede groep zijn geraakt? Want jij en Toon Aerts, op een gegeven moment waren jullie wel met 2 even weg van jullie medegezellen.
Ja, ik had toch het gevoel dat het parcours was. Je had 1 lang stuk richting een brug waar ik mijn kracht kwijt kon. En voor de rest was het heel technisch en gewoon proberen op de fiets te blijven. Want het was wel echt wel verraderlijk. Dus op een gegeven moment kun je niet sneller dan snel rijden. Dus vanuit die gaten gevallen zijn, heb je maar 1, 2, 3 stukken op parcours waar je kan proberen sneller te rijden als de groep voor u. En klagen over parcours heeft geen zin. Dat is koers en je moet proberen mee te zijn van het begin en vandaag mocht dat niet zijn.
Met wat voor gevoel ga je nu naar huis?
Ja, het is sowieso een teleurstellende trip geweest, denk ik. Vorige week de resultaten en het gevoel echt slecht. Vandaag het gevoel al een beetje beter, maar ik moet eerlijk zijn dat dat nog niet de Wout is die ik wil zijn. Maar vandaag heb ik ook wel mijn redenen waarom ik niet kan meeknokken voor het podium. Dus het is al positiever dan vorige week, maar ik had toch liever een wedstrijd zonder pech gereden deze keer.
Bedankt voor je tijd.
Dank u.
Sorry, shadows are real bad. Wie dat er van Taylor CD afkomt, ik weet elkaar al mee zitten. Oké? Dat gaat best. Ja, gewoon nummer dat je kunt zien. Let's try this side.
So the standings now in the Telenet UCI Cyclocross World Cup. It's a lead of 50 points for Mathieu van der Poel with wins in each of the first 2 races. He leads the 2 Belgians, Van Toornhout and Pauwels. But Belgians there near positions 5th through 9th. As you see, what is typical in cyclocross, with a lot of Belgians dominating the top 10. And Stephen Hyde in the top 20, the U.S. National Cyclocross Champion in 20th place. 61 points so far through the first 2 races. Wout van Aert, who you just heard from, just outside the top 10 right now after 2 somewhat difficult races in the U.S. for him. Last week in Iowa and today in Wisconsin. Now plenty of dairy up here in south central Wisconsin. An unusually hot day with temperatures near 90 degrees, but big sports day with the Green Bay Packers playing about 2 hours northeast of here up at Lambeau Field. And a terrific property here at the Trek Cycling World headquarters. This course built right out in back of the actual building. And a great crowd out for this second World Cup race of this season. First ever World Cup race at this venue, and maybe one of many to come. And the culmination of a big cyclocross weekend. They held other races beginning Friday, continuing yesterday, and then wrapping up with the World Cup events today. I know you've been here all weekend, Jens, and been a huge festival atmosphere, a lot of good racing, a lot of fans who are out here today watching, participating earlier in the week over the last few days. And we'll talk more about that in a moment, but Mathieu van der Poel gets the win today. And now we hear from the 2-time winner already on the World Cup this season.
Mathieu van der Poel, het was niet je plan om er in de eerste ronde van door te gaan, zei je voor de cross. En dan doe je het toch.
Ja, ik zei het. Ik maak nooit eigenlijk een plan van tevoren, maar ik was weer heel goed weg. En ik werkte al van in het begin dat ik mijn eigen heel sterk voelde. En ja, ik kreeg ook gelijk een gatje. Ik weet niet of er achter mij iets gebeurd is of niet, maar ja, ik kreeg gelijk een gat. En ik heb vanaf ronde 1 eigenlijk mijn ding kunnen doen. Ik denk zeker niet dat dat een nadeel was op dit parcours, omdat het was toch heel verraderlijk en heel glad op sommige plekken.
Hoe verklaar jij het klassenverschil voorlopig tussen jou en al de rest?
Goh, geen idee. Ja, ik heb natuurlijk, zoals de meesten weten, een goede zomer achter de rug. En, ja, ik voel me eigenlijk wel sterker dan andere jaren. Maar ja, dat is meer dan logisch, denk ik.
Heeft de hitte je eigenlijk iets van last bezorgd?
Nee, allemaal niet. Ik zei net ook, ik heb eigenlijk bijna geen last van de warmte gehad. En ik denk dat we een heel goede keuze hebben gemaakt om hier vrijdag te crossen. Waar de gevoelstemperatuur nog een stuk hoger lag voor mij. En, ik denk dat dat een heel goede beslissing was van het team en van mij om dat te doen. Om eraan te winnen.
Dat is 3 op 3 voor jou hier in de Verenigde Staten. Hè? Met wat voor gevoel ga je nu naar huis?
Ja, ik ben super tevreden natuurlijk. Ook voor mij blijft dat het leukste wat er is, winnen. En uiteindelijk ja, doe ik daar toch al mijn trainingen voor. En om zo rond te rijden, dat is hetgeen waarvoor ik wielrenner ben.
En je broer heeft ook gewonnen vandaag, wist je dat al?
Ja, ik heb vanochtend gevolgd via de livestream. Dus ja, dat is heel leuk natuurlijk. Ik denk dat de ploeg het redelijk goed doet momenteel.
Dikke proficiat.
Dank u wel, merci.
In English? Even hetzelfde meteen doen. Mathieu van der Poel, first lap and off you were. How can you explain that?
I can't. I think I had a really good start and the course was really tricky and I think it wasn't a disadvantage to be at the front on my own and I could do my own thing, choose my own lines and I think that was my strength today.
It was hot today, but did the heat even bother you at all?
No, I think we made a good decision with the team and myself to race on Friday. I think the temperature was even higher then and I was really good adapted today and yeah, no, I think we had also good preparation with all the ice we had and I think yeah, we did a good job to protect myself from the heat.
Congratulations, thank you.
Well, he was speaking about some of the ice that he put on himself and some of the water and some of the essential preparations ahead of dealing with the heat that no doubt helped him. But even he was at a loss for words to explain how he gets away from everybody else on the first lap and doesn't look back.
It was impressive indeed, and yeah, he never looked back once. You know, he seemed to like knew, okay, I dropped them. I don't even need to look back to them. So that was really impressive. And I mean, it was a good field. You know, we had the reigning world champion here, and nobody had a recipe to beat him.
His fellow Dutch rider Corne van Kessel won the sprint for second place as he finishes behind Mathieu van der Poel, and now here is Van Kessel near the finish.
Meneer Van Kessel, wat valt er te doen tegen Mathieu van der Poel als hij zo begint?
Heel weinig denk ik. Vandaag had ik het goede wiel direct te pakken in de start. En er was eigenlijk vrij weinig aan te doen. Ik probeerde mijn eigen tempo te rijden en niet op te blazen omdat ik de vrijdag wel wat gedaan had. En ik denk dat ik daar goed in geslaagd ben, er in de tweede plaats uit de brand te slepen. En ja, er valt niet veel tegen te doen denk ik.
Is het dan ontmoedigend voor jou als renner als je meteen weet van ja, die gaan we niet meer terugzien?
Je moet gewoon op een andere manier koersen. Als je weet dat hij direct wegrijdt, ja, dan moet je gewoon rijden voor de tweede plaats. En, dat is misschien niet de goede instelling, maar dat is wel de instelling om zo hoog mogelijk te geraken in de wedstrijd.
Wel de tweede plaats hier op het parcours van Trek. Dan moet je met een positief gevoel terug naar huis gaan, veronderstel ik.
Ja, zeker. Het is een hele goede afsluiter. We worden hier heel goed ontvangen. We kunnen hier in een werkplaats van Trek ons ding doen. De hele dag cool zitten en ja, we worden hier goed verzorgd.
De ploeg had in het begin in de eerste bocht al wat pech. En dan hebben jullie met twee de eer hoog gehouden. Hè. Dat moet ook mooi zijn voor de ploeg dat jullie daarvoor zorgen dat jullie het podium eigenlijk vervolledigen.
Ja, dat denk ik wel. Zeker hier, omdat hij bij Trek is, dat we deze wereldbeker met 2 en 3 op het podium kunnen staan, is zeer mooi. En Quinten die viel direct, of Lars die viel direct in de eerste bocht en Quinten viel een ronde later in dezelfde bocht op dezelfde manier. En ja, dan weten we eigenlijk wel dat het heel glad is. En ondanks de droogte, het gras waarschuwt niet en het schuift ineens.
Heb je last gehad van die hitte hier?
Ja, we stonden op 3 posten denk ik, stonden ze met water over ons te gooien. En dat deed wel elke punt deed hij wel terug deugd om daar te passeren. Ik was gestart met een ringbus, maar die was ik voor de eerste post al kwijt.
Hartelijk bedankt en nog eens dikke proficiat.
It is Gary Fisher, who was born in Oakland, California, and is considered one of the inventors of the modern mountain bike. Really the pioneer, and competed himself in road and track races starting at the age of 12. Just a legend in the sport. And here in Waterloo for this first time World Cup event at this venue at the world headquarters of the Trek Bicycle Company. And what a day it was as Mathieu van der Poel gets the victory. These are some of the amateurs racing on the course right now. Dan Sota is the third member of the podium, finishing on the bottom step today. And here he is after his performance.
Daan Soete, wat gaat er in je om als je Mathieu van der Poel zo ziet vertrekken vanaf de start?
Ja, ik heb hem eigenlijk niet zien vertrekken. Ik zat een beetje tussen alle valpartijen en schermutselingen in, dus ik heb het eigenlijk niet gezien. Ik zag dat hij de eerste ronde al 10, 15 seconden weg was en dan weet je dat je nooit niet meer terugkomt.
Zijn die valpartijen en die schermutselingen de redenen dat jullie er niet meer bij zijn geraakt, denk je?
Nee, zeker niet. Ik denk of dat er nu gevallen wordt of niet. Ik denk dat Mathieu hier altijd gewonnen had. Dat is echt een parcours voor hem. Het schoof heel hard, dus het was echt puur op techniek.
Je hebt zelf wel een dijk van de wedstrijd gereden opnieuw. Wat vind je zelf van je cross?
Ja, ik ben wel heel tevreden. Ik heb altijd op kop proberen te blijven rijden als de rest niet wou rijden. Omdat ik niet graag had dat er meer terug zou komen. Omdat dan echt de hele tijd vechten zou zijn voor uw plaats. Dus ja, ik heb dan zelf maar gereden.
Het is door jouw kopwerk wel dat Telenet Videa hier plaatsen 2 en 3 eigenlijk wat te pakken heeft. Want zoals je zegt, jij hebt constant zitten sleuren aan de kop van dat groepje.
Ja, ik wist als ik zelf blijf rijden, maak ik ook kans op het podium. En als we allemaal wachten op Wout van Aert en de rest, ja, dan pakt hij misschien de tweede of de derde plaats. Dus ja, soms moet je ook gewoon eens durven rijden, denk ik.
Proficiat, hartelijk bedankt.
Dank u.
2 Dutch riders and 1 Belgian on the podium here today. As the fans still milling around somewhat, and what a weekend it was for them to come out. Despite the heat, sunny conditions, no real other competition in terms of nearby athletics. I did mention that the Packers are playing today 2 hours northeast of here, but the biggest other attraction in this area is Wisconsin Badger football, but they were idle this week. They had a bye, so no football weekend to contend with. So even though Madison is just about a 20-minute drive away from here, Madtown, as they call it, the Badgers were not competing with the cyclocross, and that gave this event an opportunity to have the stage all to itself, and boy, did they take advantage. Perhaps thinking that maybe a world championship would come here someday, and they are starting to lay the foundation here at the Trek World Headquarters, and starting with their very first World Cup event, a rousing success this weekend in South Central Wisconsin. As the podium ceremony gets set to commence here near the finish of the race. Top 3. Now, Jens, they have about a month off before the World Cup resumes in Europe in mid-October. So that's plenty of time for other riders to regroup, focus on what they can do to try and get to Mathieu van der Poel. But there's a lot of time, but maybe not a lot of options.
That's the thing. It is not enough options for them, because the way Mathieu look, he is just superior everywhere. Bike handling, he's just stronger, faster, better skills, fast on the downhills. So I don't even know where the other one should start to actually reduce the gap they have towards him. He's just in his own league in the moment, clearly.
That is the World Cup leaders jersey he's putting on now. Many of these riders departing pretty quickly to head back to Europe because there is some other racing, not World Cup competition, but other prestigious cyclocross racing to be done in the coming weeks.
It's almost like a second league they have there in Belgium, and they take that serious. It's important for every Belgian rider to be there and be part of it.
Now the Dutch national anthem. Now 2 weeks in the U.S. and 2 decisive victories for the 22-year-old Mathieu van der Poel. Never even trailed in Iowa City or today in Waterloo, Wisconsin.
And for the first time in UCI Cyclocross World Cup history was equal prize money today.
And presenting the checks to the riders on the podium now. Equal prize money for the first time for the women and the men this weekend in Waterloo. And a Wisconsin Badger hockey jersey on top of it. The Badgers playing in nearby Madison at the Kohl Center. One of the most popular draws, always very well attended during the winter months. And now there is the reigning women's world champion and the Victoria Sanikants, who won here earlier today in the ladies event. And Wisconsin also has a women's team in Badger hockey, so she gets the jersey as well. So they have the World Cup leaders jerseys and Wisconsin Badger hockey jerseys to take back with them. And a check that's bigger than all of it. Still waiting for hockey season here in Wisconsin, though. A hot one today, temperature near 90 degrees, but undeterred was Mathieu van der Poel of the Netherlands, who gets the win for the second week in a row on the Cyclocross World Cup. And now for Jens Vogt, I'm Steve Schlanger. Thanks for joining us, everyone, for this second race of the 2017-18 Telenet UCI Cyclocross World Cup. And now we say so long from Waterloo, Wisconsin, just outside of Madison.